talk to animals. Have you ever wished you could talk to animals? You can. My name is Shannon. I'm an animal sensitive and intuitive with animal love languages, and this is Pearl. He is my 22-year-old feathery sidekick, and he never misses an episode. No, you don't. You want to, right now, he's wanting to get down. I have some wonderful overripe bananas, and he likes to chew the crap out of the back of them. So we're going to let you get to it and welcome our special guest today, Marcia Zais. I'm so honored and delighted to have you with us today, Marcia. Today on this series, we'll be talking about what I'd like to call frequently asked questions about animal communication. You know, how does it work? How do you know you can do it? When did you first know? What can you do to start learning? And most of all, what is it like to talk to animals? That's the big hot button question that everybody has. You already know, don't you? You already know. The truth is, talking to animals it's a sensory language we all possess. It's part of our birthright. We're not the only species on this planet that got left out of the greater chain of communication that connects all life. Just that most of us have forgotten that we have it. What is it good for? Talking to your own animals, being able to respond. Now he's saying, no, I want your necklace. I know you do. Be able to talk to our pets, being able to talk to the wild animals that we interact with around our home or when we're out traveling. It's great for talking to houseplants. They love it. We can talk to insects. I know a woman who talked a wasp out of her house using animal communication. How cool is that? And most of all, it helps us to feel more connected and more alive. For me, it's been a process of waking up. I feel like certain parts of myself have turned on that I never even knew were there. And you don't have to hang out a shingle and do it professionally to want to learn. It's just it's an experience that has tremendous value just for its own sake. So I hope you enjoy this series. I'm looking forward to diving in and talking with you today, Marcia. And of course, you may be listening to the podcast, you may be watching our YouTube series, but if you have questions for us, you can either pop them in the comments or you can visit Marcia at marciazais.com. And of course, I'm with animallovelanguages.com. So without further ado, let's get started after my extra lengthy intro, right? I'm so excited to talk with you today, Marcia. Of course, I reached out to you because you have a unique, what I feel is a unique calling and gift to help people who are navigating the process of pets transitioning, grieving animals who have passed, and supporting humans who are missing their interspecies loves. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask you is, when did you even know that talking to animals was possible? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, I want to begin just by saying that was a beautiful intro that you did, that you said.
Thank you. Very lengthy.
But really, opening your heart and really defining, what the communication with animals is really all about. So yeah, thank you. Yeah. I think I was aware. Since I was a child, I remember 4, 5, 6. I always had an animal, dogs, birds, and so I remember at an early age of feeling that connection, and horses, that I could really connect with an animal.
Yeah, that's really neat. I've run across many people in my it's hard to call it work when you love it so much. My calling as an animal communicator, where we'll be talking with their animal and they'll ask a question and I will connect with their animal and receive the answer, share it with them, and they'll say, I knew fill in the blank's name was going to say that. So would you say it's someone like that? I love those moments. Like, was there ever a time when you kind of realized that you could talk to animals, or you could do this? It's something that could be done with more structure, more formal, something that you could grow in, get better at, expand. What was that like for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can, as you're talking, I'm thinking of two different things. So
Mhm.
I'm not totally focused on what you're saying, but so I mean, I remember feeling that as a young child, and just watching how my parakeet learned how to speak. And I mean, I had the patience and the connection, and could feel that. And my dog was extraordinary. Um, but so I'm just going to sort of make this a little longer story. So I had a spiritual epiphany in the 70s, and it wasn't with animals. And then I'm going to go from that point to in the early 90s. And my husband and I, we traveled a lot. We had, you know, 3 horses, 2 dogs, I mean, 3 dogs, 2 cats. And so somebody would always come and stay at our house. And one day she said,
Ah,
I heard about this woman in North Carolina that does animal communication. And anyway, so it's like, oh,
wow.
okay. Well, so just out of a fluke, not that I wanted to ever be an animal communicator. When I was 5, I wanted to be a vet. So, I mean, I knew
Ah,
I always loved being with animals. But so anyway, so I went away with her for a weekend. And when I came back from the weekend, and just to backtrack again, in the 90s, it was pretty uncommon. So it
yeah.
was very woo-woo, as if it isn't now, but
Yes. Right?
the
Well, not
pathway,
so much. Not
yeah,
so
the
much.
pathway is a little bit wider now. So I called a few friends of mine who had adult children who had animals. I didn't know the animals, and friends who had other friends whose animals I didn't know. And I put some calls out, and I said, I just came back from this weekend class, and I just want to see if this really works. And
Fabulous.
so that's how it started. And I remember, so I was talking to one of the people that I was speaking to. She had this very fancy German dressage horse.
Mm.
And this horse had, I mean, I could hear the German accent coming out of this horse. So, every one of my communions or communications with an animal is different. Just like when we meet somebody different in our lives, all of our conversations, all of our experiences are different. So, but this one had this German accent. He showed me exactly how he moved and what he liked. And, and I was spot on with her. She was, really impressed. And then she started telling people, and all these other calls, they were accurate enough that people started calling me.
Mhm.
And I don't remember how long this went on until my husband said to me, I think you should make this a business. So that's how it just
Go
opened.
hubby, right?
Hubby, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then it was not even a year later, and one of my horses had died. And he said,
Mm.
I want you to start teaching. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? I've only been doing this a year, and you want me to start teaching? And he said, I'm going to help you. So anyway, I sent out some, information, and there were like 7, 8 people that responded. And I just trusted it. I had some notes from my class, and I added some of the things because each one of us, we do things in our own unique way.
This is
It's
true.
like we all have this fingerprint. Everybody has a fingerprint, but everybody's fingerprint's different. So I'm a Qigong back then, and since the 70s, 80s, been doing Qigong and Tai Chi. So I added that into my practice. And anyway, so then, I mean, one thing has just, for me, has just flowed into another and another.
It sounds very, very organic. Maybe that's not quite the right word, but it just sounds very natural and very meant to be, just like a very natural unfolding and evolution, and a very joyful journey, a very intriguing, interesting journey full of little twists and turns and aha moments that showed up, and you were awake and aware enough to tune in, to be tuned in enough to receive them. And I think that's it's like there's this feels deeply embedded in our very fast-paced, very modern, very westernized society that work is work and fun is the thing you do when you're not at work. And more I'm meeting people who are making the brave choice to do something that they absolutely love. And it's like that there's the joy of your story just shines through. It's like, what if we could do something with our lives that supports us and supports others and supports the planet, and it's fun. I mean, I love how, usually ask a question, what is it like talking to animals? Like, it's a very academic, pedantic question, and you just answered it. It's like they all have unique personalities just like we do. I've found, of course, I'm much newer at this than you are, but there are certain little quirks where even if maybe I didn't know the species I was talking to, I might have a better guess just because of certain little quirks. But ultimately, when you take away the ability to see the other being, I mean, I don't even know if I'd be talking, if I would know I was talking to an animal, as in a non-human animal, if you didn't specifically tell me. They have the same rich, vibrant, unique personalities. Maybe I would know through the lack of worrying and the directness of the communication, perhaps. What do you think about that? The difference between communicating with human animals and non-human animals, because of course you work with both.
Yeah, every situation is unique. So I can't say, I put one, it's categorized the way you suggested it. So I think that, what I learned when I first started working with animals, and certainly what I've learned, in my hospice life, which I've been a hospice volunteer for people for over 10 years, is not to have any expectations. And that's hard to do, especially when you're nervous about making a call or getting it right, or whatever our stuff is.
Or a podcast or a YouTube series or whatever it is, right?
Exactly. Same thing. So, the most important piece is not to have any expectations and see what comes out of it. And just like with people, there are some animals that are a little more reluctant in sharing. They don't just come out, most of them, some of them, with this, well, let me tell you my life story. Oh, let me tell you everything that's wrong. It's a whole evolution. And, so I can't really put it into two different groups of, animals, people, different species, because each one, to me, each experience is so unique. And if we were to sit in a group with other intuitive, sensitives, animal communicators, empaths, whatever, and we all looked at the same thing, we were all focused on that same particular animal, we would all get there might be some threads that are very similar, but we would all have some differences also from, how we ask a question, how we feel that question we're asking, and how they connect to us. So, it's all very layered and enrich with, so many different levels.
Yeah. It's all I love how you share that. It's we have our own unique way of even perceiving information as it's coming in, of sharing that information as it's coming in, because we're we're talking about building relationships here. And each relationship, whether it's brief or it's 22 years or it's 60 years, right? 22 years is a good number, right? We're going for oldest lived or immortal, whichever comes last. Yes, we are. Or 60 years, which is that's how long my parents were together before my dad passed. I mean, that's amazing. So there's all kinds, as you said, of layers, but we're building relationships. And so there's never ever, I love your analogy of the fingerprint. There's never going to be two relationships that look or sound or feel or are experienced exactly alike. And speaking of relationships, I really want, because I feel like your work is so unique. You have I don't know if it was a choice to specialize. Sounds like such a structured and kind of word, but to focus on the process where the animal is reaching the end of life stages and making that transition and helping those partners, that animal and that human, navigate that. I'd love to hear the story of how that unfolded for you.
Okay. Well, thank you for asking me that. It
You're
is
so
definitely
welcome.
a calling. So I think,
Holly.
even in my as a hospice volunteer, everybody there, they all feel the same way. It's an honor and a privilege to help people and their families, walk that road, walk that path. And actually, before I went away for that animal communication workshop, I had a dog. He was a golden mix, and he was 4 years old, and he was dying.
Oh my goodness.
And the weekend before, it was a few days, I'm just remembering this now. It was a few days before I went away on the workshop, and I'm thinking, am I going to go away? My dog's so sick. He had a
Mm.
sarcoma. And he died 2 days before I left, but it was my first communication. And he told me, I was lying in bed. It was late at night, and I could hear him. And he said, I'm getting ready to go. And he left the bedroom. We always slept at the foot of the bed, and he went off into a corner. And that's where he stayed. And he was in pain. And so I did help him to go by calling a vet. But that was my very first communication. And it was around
Wow.
death and dying. And, I just feel like the work I do it is specialized, and it is sacred. And I have developed a protocol that helps people come to terms with what's going on to begin with. And we had this conversation before this
Mhm.
podcast, that, people in our culture, we do not talk about dying. We do not plan for it. We have no conversations about it. It's the elephant in the room. And so when death then comes, or the approaching of death comes, we panic, we don't know what to do, and the anxiety is just, totally out of control.
Yeah.
And so, through the guidance that I receive, I've developed a protocol that helps people. They first begin to calm down, and we create a pathway. It's an agreement that we make together, because
Mhm.
it's not easy I'm meeting somebody where they are and helping them to move forward. But it seems to work out. And so then I watch how they move through that, and I see the gifts that they gain in going through this process, and in bringing in their family, which is hardly ever in harmony with the same, values or thoughts about going forward, but just through working with the families as well, or they are working with the families, everybody gets on the same page. Everyone waits until it's the right time. And then the animal, he's waiting too. He's not going anywhere. And, and then just watching how that all forms into very sad, devastating, just life-changing, but also something that's very sacred that you're able to walk through. When you love somebody, you want to walk through fire with them.
Yeah.
And so basically, I want to teach people how to walk this path, because we're all going down it. We're all going to die.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So it's really allowing that, opening up this area of that nobody likes to talk about, and making that, something that is bringing it into a place where it feels like, okay, I can handle this in this moment. And I don't need to know, people talk about living in the moment, and great when your moment's out there, but when you're facing life and death, your moment is right in front of you, and it's not easy, so, but to be able to walk that path consciously and see that through is, to me, a huge gift and a miracle.
Well, as I've been starting to walk this path of being out in the world and offering animal communication as a service, I've been encountering people who are in various stages of that process, some of whom are asking the question are we getting close to the time? Some who are, that moment is, as you said, right in front of them, and they're trying to decide in that moment how to navigate, and some who are, coping with the aftermath, coping or not coping, as the case may be. And so I have been sending folks over to you routinely. That's one of the wonderful gifts of joining the animal communication community, is learning about my fellow intuitives who have such amazing offerings. I know your time is way far in the future, or never. Yeah, we're going for never. And just feeling like, if it's tough to talk about people passing and end of life wishes, and of course you and I had that conversation because of what I just went through, losing my dad, it feels doubly so in some respects with animals. Not everybody is an animal lover. It seems hard for us to believe, but not everybody is in love with sharing their lives with animals. Not everyone understands exactly what you said, with the family is often on wildly different pages. Of course, I'm paraphrasing what you said, but not everybody sees eye to eye on how to proceed. And some people don't even, I've talked with people who, they don't really talk about how much they miss their animal with anyone other than me, because there's people that in their life that just don't understand. And it's like, it's not going to get easier on its own. Feels like part of the nature of being human that we need something to do, need a way to interact with our grief and with our emotions and with the loss of this being in the physical form, that we miss them so much.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's important to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And you're right. When my husband died, I swore I was going to write a book on what not to say to someone, when your spouse or when someone you
I
love.
would read that. Yeah.
So well-meaning people, but just saying things that, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And sometimes with an animal, This is just like, just a memory, but someone I know and her daughter-in-law, the dog, was euthanized. Was a very sad story. And she said to me, "Oh, they're going to Nantucket for the week, and they'll be fine after they get home." Like, you're going to get over it.
Wow.
Right. So no concept of that. So, how do you heal when you're around other people who are telling you, get over it. You shouldn't be feeling that way, trying to make you feel better instead of just listening, just, having that open heart and really opening up and listening. So, once we experience loss, and we all experience loss, whether we lose a job or, an account or a person or an animal or a house or all of these are losses, and so each loss, it's like you get a wound. You have this wound on your finger, and first it's that deep wound, and you need to treat it and be careful, and maybe not you know you know put it in water, or you need to care for it till it starts to heal. But there's always going to be a scar. There's always going to be something there, and it's not going to be as fresh as it was when it was open. But there might be times, because grieving is not linear. It's not like you get better, better, better. Oh, I'm on phase out of 5, Elizabeth Ross, 5 phases.
Right.
I'm on
Right.
phase 5. I think I should be over. That isn't what she really intended.
No.
Because they're all mixed up, and they come and they go whenever they come and they go at their own time, and people aren't particularly educated, in that way. And so for me, I feel that that's my job, is to help people to know that it's okay with everything that they're feeling, and to move forward in that way, knowing that, yeah, you're always going to have that scar there. That's Benny. That's my dog Benny there. That's, and it's kind of there's a bittersweetness to it as well. So, it's I've been doing, working with animals in every capacity. I do a lot of healing work, but my calling, at least at this point, is all end of life. So I'm just completing a book. I know you didn't ask, but
I was about to, and
Okay.
you could be sure. Yeah, no, I did. That was question number 7.
Okay.
You could tell us now. Please do.
Well, it's a booklet. It's a guide. It's called The Complete Life, To Complete a Life. And it's a guide that tells you how to, it's basically what I teach people one-on-one. And it's a guide to help you navigate through the process of, oh my God, I just got this diagnosis. Is he dying? Is he not dying? Is he, where is he? What am I going to do? What are all the things that I need to know about? People, unless if you go through it once, you have an idea, of different things to expect. Sorry.
Oh, Pearl loves it. He's like, it's just a little extra music, isn't it? It's just a little extra music, right? It's wonderful.
So, yeah, but a lot of people are unaware of what it's like. Like, well, how do I do this? How do I know when? That's the hardest part. How do I wait? How do I be patient with this? What happens? What happens if my dog and cat, bird, horse needs to be euthanized? Does somebody come to the house? Do I have to go somewhere? How do they do that? What does that feel like? So I have everything in there that's like got those factual pieces, as well as, talking about, doing things that help through the bereavement process, which is, really a lifelong, piece, but that just that immediate part. So that's, my goal. And now I'm in the process of being certified as end of life doula.
which is phenomenal. Yeah.
I love it. And I'm going to be doing for the organization, be teaching classes to be end of life doulas for animals. So I'm excited
Incredible.
about that
And
too.
just, I would, that would be such an honor for me to, and it, you bring up a particularly critical point that doesn't come up nearly as often with people is that decision. I mean, when my dad was passing, there were moments when, with even the most sophisticated palliative care, there was no way to ease suffering. Luckily, I'm a Reiki master, and I was able to work with him, with energetically to help facilitate. But there were so many limitations, and at one point, my mom and I looked at one another. We were talking with the care workers and the nurses at the hospice, and saying, in some respects, we treat our animals so much more honorably than we do our people. We have more options. We have, to end suffering, to understand when the quality of life isn't there, and to allow a human being, while they still have capacity, to make a decision about their end of life wishes and when they're ready to go. But it can be really difficult when you're making that decision on behalf of another being and you really love them, but you also really don't want them to suffer. And it feels like those goals or those desires are conflicting with one another. It's very palpable, and saying, I don't want to lose you, but I don't want you to suffer. And having a mentor, having a guide, having a book, having a course, having a group, like I'd love to hear a little bit more about your bereavement group that you host for, because I've been referring people to that group. It's very unique, thinking about these things, and then after we make the decisions, having to confront them again on the other side of the grieving process.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. Eventually, what will happen when people make a choice for someone who can't speak in those words? And I will never tell somebody, oh, your animal is this or that, because I think it is such a it's life and death. And every person has to believe in their heart that what they're doing is the right thing. I don't believe it's helpful when somebody tells you it's time, whether it's a vet, whoever it is, So, I mean, I can feel the energies of what's going on, but, and I will try to guide people into just kind of being more observant about noticing things and writing it down, so it gives them a better picture, but that they come to that conclusion of, as much as I love you, I just do not want you to suffer. I would not want that for myself.
Yeah.
Why would I want you to have to endure that? You're right and not right about humans and animals, having watched both. Yes, people are, for in our hospice, we've got a whole a whole slew of different, formulas, medicines. Of course, morphine's probably the best known, and I mean, and that's going to really help alleviate the pain and, and anxiety. So, being able to take all those formulas are great. We do not have that for animals. We have, looking at, I mean, I usually recommend, things like homeopathy and flower essences, and, get from your vet whatever, a little kit, that will keep them as comfortable as possible. But sometimes all of that just isn't enough, so even with Reiki or any other form of energy work, So, there's, so you're, so with people, yes, we have morphine, and that usually with Ativan, all these different,
Right.
combinations. And that
Exactly.
usually is what helps to, that they can relax enough to let go. With animals, we don't have that, but we do have euthanasia, which is a very gentle way when someone's really struggling. You do not want someone you love to struggle. So
Exactly.
we do have that.
Exactly. Well, it's, as you say, a beautiful calling. Still, I see you and I feel you up there. He's feeling very fierce today. He's feeling very fierce, very young and vivacious, right? Um, it is a unique, a beautiful and challenging calling. And it's very worthwhile. I talk about a worthwhile use of a life. To be there of service to people and their animals at a moment when life couldn't possibly feel any more challenging. And being willing to sit with that and then also bring out of it so many resources that can help people and animals. I love the knowledge that animal end of life doula is in the unfoldment process. And I can't wait to hear more about that. Maybe we can do an episode 2 when you have more information to share on that process, because I personally, as an animal lover and carer, lifelong carer, my first animal was also a parakeet, by the way. So very 11 years. Perky and I were joined at the beak for 11 years, from when I was 8 through to whatever that works. Math has never been my strong point, but through college. But for now, I'd like to let people who may be watching or listening to know how to reach you and what you have, how they can work with you, especially if they're in the throes of this difficult process and need extra support. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the best way to reach me on my website, which is marciazais.com, and it's Marcia, Marcia, and my last name is Zais.com. Or you can email me at marcia@marciazais.com. So either way, and I will be offering classes on end of life doula for animals. So that should be.
I'm already excited to sign up. So you've already got your first student. How about that? So please, if you have questions for Marcia, you can leave us a comment. You can email her. You can email me at shannon@animallovelanguages.com. If you have specific questions, and there are enough of them, we could do a follow-up episode on that. If you'd like to share your story and how you've navigated such difficult transition, we'd love to hear it. And we honor you for loving an animal so much. It's a brave, brave choice to make, and it is a choice, and it does take tremendous courage. Thank you for listening, for watching, for caring, for allowing all the possibilities of interspecies communication to intrigue you and maybe to impel you to dig a little deeper, to learn a little more, to tune in a little more closely in those moments you have with your own animals and with wild nature. And we look forward to welcoming you back to our next episode. To find out more about the podcast and the video series, you can always visit me, Shannon, and of course, Pearl. Come here. He's busy chewing up. The bananas are a shadow of their former selves at this point. I would not want to be a banana in this household, let me tell you. He loves them. His grandmother donates her extra ripe bananas to the cause. And it's a great babysitter for recording podcasts, let me tell you. But if you want to find out more and find out who's coming up on our show, on our podcast or our video series, visit us at animallovelanguages.com/podcast. Marcia, thank you so much for being a mentor and teacher and inspiration for me. And thank you so much for being a guest and being willing to donate your time to support others on this journey of animal communication. And we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you, everybody.